Hi, everybody. Welcome to Science Gal Aquatics Live. I'm Carrie. Welcome to the chat. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Kasia from Creative Pet Keeping. I am so excited that you are here. You have no idea how much I look up to you, and your tanks are beautiful, and everything you do is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not that fancy. I feel like because I've been on YouTube for such a long time, like 10 years, I've like acquired all of the subscribers I have over time. But I feel like in the great scheme of things, like I'm not that fancy at all.
Well, I got the honor of meeting you at Aquashella, and I feel like I got to see your fish room in person, and it's amazing.
It was so fun to hang out. You were so helpful too. Like she helped a lot. She helped set up Aquashella, like our booth. Like
that was my goal the last time. I really wanted to just help out as much as I could because I honestly came home from the first one I went to was Dallas, and I felt kind of guilty for just showing up and then leaving.
That's okay too.
I really felt like I wanted to pitch in as much as I could, and that I loved going to the show and talking to everybody, but the behind the scenes was so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. I wish that I could like let everybody come into my house and see my fish room, but like you have to be kind of careful, stranger danger and meeting people online. So anytime that like I do find a couple other fish keepers and I know them, I'm like, you're safe. I've met you before and stuff like that. That I'm really excited. Like, come hang out with my fish room because I really like seeing other people's fish rooms too. It's so exciting.
It's so exciting.
Up, and it looks different. It looks so different on camera because the camera lenses, no matter what camera you use, there's always like some sort of distortion that happens. So when you see everything like to scale. And you get to look at the things like you want to look at. Like I've done that before where I've hung out in Jason's fish room, Jason from Primetime Aquatics. Like I would go off and like scurry away and just like go stare at like the fish I want to stare at. And like
you get lost in the tanks. And your tanks are beautiful on film. Like your footage is crystal clear, but in person it's amazing. And everything's so organized.
Well, I try. Well, it usually isn't. There's actually a funny thing. And by the way, if I'm looking away, I'm just gonna open up the same stream so that I can look at the comments because I forgot to do that. I'm multitasking. But so what I do sometimes in my videos is I'll sometimes try to clean the fish room before I film. But sometimes if I'm working and I'm really busy, I've cheated before where I've like taken because I'll put stuff on like the shelving right here as I'm doing, and it'll like accumulate over the week, right? So I'll quickly grab the stuff and I'll just shove it and like put it all right here, which is totally what's happening right now. Like the tank right here with the bed with the what is it, 15 long? Right now you can see it. There's stuff right in front.
I have a back room. I don't know what to do with this stuff yet, box. That it'll eventually find a home. But after that trip, I came home and I redid the fish room. After being on that trip and seeing everybody's fish room, I was like, I just want everything to look as one step better. Because I was like, I have never been around fish people before. And being in someone else's fish room, it's just me and my dad. And for the longest time, I just had a couple of tanks. So now that I have a fish room and got more addicted, it was really fun going in and seeing another fish room, much less like pristine, top notch.
I tried. I was doing water changes like right before Aquashella because I knew like some people might come by, and everyone does that. Jason does the same thing. Like he'll talk to me. He's like, "I'm so tired." Me and the boys were like spent like I don't know how many hours like in the fish room, like doing all the water changes and cleaning the glass. Like we all do that. Like our fish rooms are not always like pristine all the time. But we try our best. We try our best, like presentable, because you're proud of it and you want to show it it's like at its best. And usually when you do like a water change the day before, everything just looks so nice.
Yeah. There are certain times I come down here, I'm like, man, I'm doing a fantastic job. And then there's other times I come down here, I'm like, I could try a little harder.
You've got like an awesome background going on already. Like
this right here is just bed sheets. It's just, and I have them clamped to this.
It works,
but it works really well for a backdrop for the tanks because I tried painting them, but it eventually chips off. So there's always one spot that's not, but in person it's a little much, but it films well. But I tried to come home and make everything a lot more uniformed after meeting you guys.
Because I think like privately, personally, people tend to have like a fun little mishmash. But like once you start going online, there seems to be a trend where people want to have like a theme. Like one that kind of have like I try to have a theme, but not really because like my racks don't match, and I'm always still experimenting. Which is why like the closet rack is a different wood color and this one's black because I'm like I don't really know what I really like yet in terms of my fish room. This is the first time like I've set up like a fish room because previously it was just me living in like my parents' attic. And shoving tanks in the kitchen and just like making it work and improvising, but it's fun. It's fun that way. There's no like prerequisites to like what your fish room is supposed to look like. The most important thing is that you enjoy it, that you like it, and that's all that matters. Because regardless, if you really like it, people will see that on your videos. I think at least, and they'll kind of like understand and grow to like it too.
Yeah, and it's never done. Your filter's never done. If you think it's done, give it a day.
Things.
Yeah, it's super fun to switch it up, rearrange, add new things. There's always room for another tank. There's always room.
I've been lying to myself and telling myself that there isn't any room. I have like 3 empty tanks that are just like in the closet. I'm just like refusing to acknowledge that they're there. Nope, will not. And that's also why I don't allow myself to set up tanks outside of the fish room.
Yeah.
Because if I did that would be done. Like, the whole place would have tanks. Like that's what keeps me like it's so hard to keep under control because there's so many fish species I want.
I know.
No, Kasia. Stop it.
Every time I open up YouTube, I get introduced pretty much to something cool and new. And I'm like, oh, that's cute.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because then you find yourself like wanting like things you never wanted. Like for a while, I like to go on these little binges where I'll watch videos about different critters. Like for a while, I was watching stuff about geckos, and then I caved in and I got a crested gecko. But then I watched a bunch of videos about snakes, and I was like, I want a snake. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, do I really want a snake? Like, do I really want a snake, or is it because I'm watching snake videos and I want a snake? And then I told myself that I probably don't. Like, I could just vicariously continue to enjoy watching other people's snakes and like keep my animal amount like as small as possible because I also have to travel a little bit due to work, and either I'll have to get like a pet sitter that has to come in and take care of everything, or like Daniel has to take care of everything, and I don't want to leave him with like a horde of animals to look after. So you gotta kind of keep it minimized.
Yeah. But it's so easy to go down. Like, there's so many cool things. I went down the rabbit hole with isopods for some reason, and they're readily available in my yard. So I had frogs for a while, but it didn't work out. But the isopods, and then what are they? Mealworms. I started with mealworms too, so that's been an adventure.
You've got some little critters.
Well, and I feed them to the arowana because upstairs in the dining room is more of the monster fish area for the boys, and then down here is all the nano, smaller live bears. But it seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the reason I should go follow your rule with only in the fish room.
It helps a little bit. But at the same time, I did kind of break my rule. I do have like a little tiny, like, what was it? I think it's like a 3-gallon betta tank that's in there. But other than that, I'm just like, no.
Was that the lemon drop tank?
Yep. Now the guy that's in there is the father of these guys, which by the way, I made a big mistake of feeding them just now. So I gave them a bunch of those. They're cool, like sinking like a long pellet that is predominantly made out of earthworms. So it's like nice protein-based food. I got it from, I think it's from Ken's Fish, I think. But when you put it in, it makes a mess. So like now, this is like a huge mess in there. And I'm like, as we were talking, I'm just looking at it because I'm looking at you and me, and I'm just like, oh, that was a bad idea. We are.
We did get a $2.99 super sticker from Kaler's Aquatics, so thank you. Yay. I appreciate it.
I kind of almost interrupted you for it because I saw it and I got excited.
No, go for it, because I have my contacts again, and everybody knows I can't see with my contacts. So anytime something pops up, feel free. But we do have some really cool people here. Thank you guys for showing up. We got Mr. Fisher, Tiffany White, Scott's Aquatics, Rich T, Kaler's Aquatics, Ozzy's here, Jess Shrimp Granny's here. Thank you. Welcome.
All the cool people.
All the cool people. I did want to ask you about your microscope because I watched your video and it looks awesome. Have you had any chance to like play around with it lately?
So I actually have to order what are they called? The blank like pieces of glass. I'm such a beginner person.
Slides,
the slides. There you go. The slides. So those are in my Amazon cart. I have to order them, but I have been utilizing the slides that they already have because they're really good beginner like slides to play around with. Because I'm not very good with using microscopes. The last time I did it was in high school, and that's it. So I'm not very well versed. I've been watching Dr. Eric Johnson's tutorials. So I've been going through that. Predominantly, what I want to start using the microscope for is not so much to always identify stuff myself, but more like provide my vet with the info. Oh, Mookie's drinking out of my bucket. I put a bucket. Wait, I'm pointing this way. So this is a bucket with some water that I for the betta jars to water change. I just wanted to gas off, and apparently it's he's also a drinking bucket. But yeah, predominantly, like I really like working with fish vets because while I try my best to figure everything out myself, I'm not a vet.
Yeah,
and it's like I'm limited, so it really helps me to be able to provide him with more data without me actually having to physically send a fish over to him because he's not local to me.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I'm doing this, maybe if I make a video and share with other people, maybe other people might want to try this and might actually try to reach out to find if there is a vet. It doesn't have to be even local to them, but if they can try to find a vet to work with, because I think that will really, really help in the fish keeping hobby at all, especially because people don't really rely on vets in the fish keeping hobby as much. It's more, with your cat or your dog or your other critters, but with fish, some people I've noticed don't even know fish vets exist.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it will kind of like nudge people like towards that, especially because my recent concern has been because I'm worried about water quality more and more, like in the world and locally too, because my building has been doing a lot of repairs, and that means that I've been having water issues and I did lose a couple fish because of it. But I've been super paranoid about water, and I did a little research, and then I found out that a lot of the times when there's medications that get poured into like a fish tank, or even medications that we take that eventually, leave our bodies, that get into the water system, that the city doesn't really filter that out. I don't think they have a way to filter it out. So I think it's very easy in the fish keeping hobby to kind of over medicate fish because you're not sure what's going wrong with your fish, and you're like, oh, I'll just use this, or I'll use that, or I'll use a couple different medications, and we don't think about the fact that this is going back into our water supply. So for me to be working with a fish vet instead of experimenting and using a lot of meds, I can be like, well, let's talk about what's happening in my tank. Let me tell you, what the water parameters are. How my fish looks visually, like I could send photos and videos, and then I could look, take some skin scrapes or other samples and send those, and based on the data that my vet can kind of take a look at, then he can prescribe some sort of, not prescribe, but tell me what kind of medication to use on my fish or not to use. Because there's certain cases that sometimes you can just use, water changes and just some salt and just wait it out, and that will solve that.
Yeah. I've tried medications in the past, and I feel like sometimes I just do worse than better with them. And usually if I just up my water changes and use a specific type of salt, I have better luck. But I have tried medications. The only one that I've had kind of good luck with was a ick. Wasn't ick X, but it was an ick medicine. But it gets hard because half the time it's kind of a guessing game. You have no idea what's going on, and you have very limited things that you can use. And even that, there's a big margin for error. So I would appreciate anything that you want to share.
I'm a little nervous when it comes to sharing, when it comes
even
medications and fish.
Showing what it looks like. Just showing what it looks like under the microscope. But there's been times where I've needed a fish vet, and I've called every vet in a 3-hour radius, and I even got laughed at by one of them. I really need, and they're like, no, we don't do that. So I ended up just using catappa leaves and turning the water super, super brown, and it took months for that. It was from my knife fish. And I don't know what happened. His eye just got super bugged out and it wasn't bloody, but it was red. And I had no idea what was going on. And slowly but surely that kind of worked enough to put him back in his original tank. But I had no idea that you could it wasn't something I thought about reaching out past Missouri, but I was in such a panic that I just needed help. And no one I called could help me. And I was texting people on Facebook too. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I was so attached. I just wanted to do anything I could do to help. So
it's so stressful when you're in that kind of situation. I got lucky because Dr. Eric Johnson reached out to me. He sent me his book. He sent a couple different YouTubers his book and was like, here's my book. Here, I'm here as a resource if you would like. And that was it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just popped out of nowhere for me. And he's helped me so much because when I had an outbreak last year, and I don't remember because my memory is really bad. I don't remember exactly what it was, the disease that I had in my fish room, but it was so difficult to identify that not only did I have to send a fish to him to do a necropsy, but he actually had to send that to a lab to get that checked out. And then we finally knew because it looked like columnaris, but it wasn't. And everyone was telling me that you need to do columnaris treatments. And I was like, well, that's not working. And there's only so many fish medications you can do one after another before the fish will just, can't take it anymore because it's a lot of stress on the fish itself. And if you're not removing a fish to put in a hospital tank, then you're stressing out the entire tank and plants and all the other inhabitants. And it turns out that the only way to cure it was to feed metronidazole. It had to be you had to bind it, either get on a flake or bind it to using focus to bind it to bloodworms. Because what happened is the particular issue that was happening is it was living in my fish's guts. Oh. So you could treat it externally, you could pour some medication in a tank, but it's just going to happily just live inside the guts anyways. Everything externally was not being affected. And at the time, I was selling bettas to other people. And then I was in a situation where other people were having the same issue that they got from me. And the fact that I was able to diagnose the disease, well, I didn't do it, but Dr. Eric Johnson and with the help of the lab were able to specifically pinpoint what was wrong. I was able to reach out to the people that I sold my bettas to and let them know. And they're able to buy metronidazole medicated flakes and treat their fish.
Oh, well, that was
good because when you're a breeder, that's something I gotta think about. My fish room can become a biohazard as I move fish around or along in the hobby. Blah. I'm like getting tongue tied on all my words, but so that way it's very important for me to take all this seriously and the help I could possibly get, because I don't want to spread diseases around the hobby, and it happens.
It does. We did get a super sticker for Steam Fod Aquatics. Thank you.
Hi!
Before I forget.
The unicorn. Oh.
Yeah, it seems like with diseases and it doesn't happen very often, but when it happens, it happens.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, it's about the time you kind of let your guard down. It's like, oh, I'm good. Everything's good. And then something will kind of flare up and it's like, oh gosh. Right now I'm having trouble with the mosquito fish outside in the tub. They were doing great for months. I've had them for months. And then I went outside and checked on them yesterday and there was 3 of them that was gone. And I was like, I haven't done anything different. So it's like, gosh, I just want to do everything I possibly can, but there's sometimes I just don't know.
Sometimes
I just don't know.
Luck.
Yeah.
Just luck. Just bad luck. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. You pass by a tank and then you look at a fish the wrong way and they're like, nope, goodbye.
I just don't want to jinx myself right now. And I'm new to the plants. Like I've always had plastic stuff. So in the last, I would say year and a half, I really started trying to add plants to everything, like every tank I have. And they'll be looking good. I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. And then I'll come down here and I was like, well, everything's kind of, they look green, they look good, but they either have tons of algae on them or there's a few spots that are little yellow. So trying to play with fertilizers and all that stuff and different substrates, it's so much fun to experiment, but at the same time, I get a little stressed at times.
Do you ever have this situation happen where you have the same plant in 2 different tanks?
And they're totally
different. The same. Everything is the same. But it's like halfway growing in one and then just dying in the other. And you're just like, but why?
Why? Why? Everything that I know that I possibly have is the same. Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
The life of a fish keeper and plant keeper and all that, whatever. Speaking of plants, I've been having such a duckweed explosion that is, with a bunch of other floating plants, that I actually put a bunch of floating plants with the Placidochromis because they love they'll eat any plant. And then just for the past 3 days, having a field day, all you can eat duckweed buffet. Because in the wild, they would be munching on algae growing on rocks, but I can't really replicate that for them. So they can't really graze on vegetation. So at the very least, I'm like, well, you can munch on the duckweed during the day. So instead of getting 2 meals a day from me, you get to just sporadically eat throughout the day, which is kind of a little closer to what you would do in the wild. So I was like, that's kind of cool.
I haven't experienced a full duckweed tank yet, because anytime I get just the tiniest little bit, I take it to the koi pond. So I don't feel like I've been I don't know the word, but I haven't experienced that off where it's just in every tank, you get it on your hand and then it's in that tank and it's because I always just give it to the goldfish or koi first time I see it. Thing.
Preventative.
Yeah, but I have hours for days. I try to keep a little bit in each tank because I'm trying to do the shrimp thing now too and breed the shrimp. And I feel like they like it. So I don't clean the tanks and gravel vac as hard as I used to. I kind of let it build up a little bit more. And I feel like everything's improving a little bit. The guppies like it and all the shrimp like it, but it's hard for me because I was always cleaning everything spick and span, and you don't have to necessarily do that.
Yeah, you can just have a messy tank right here. I don't know even what. Yeah, you can't even see anything anymore. They're having a feeding fest. And
well, your tanks they look good.
Well, on camera. I just gotta film when I'm doing normal maintenance, and I will totally move things around and destroy things, and just everything is a mess, and I'm wet and I'm covered in duckweed, and I'll have a big water like spot on like my shirt because I dripped water on myself. Like,
yeah,
a mess.
Thank you, Fish Tank Barn, for the $1.99 super sticker. Thank you. I always get my hair, like I'll put my hair back and I'll start cleaning, and then it never fails. The whole end of my ponytail and like sleeve is dunked in something.
Really? That's never happened to me because usually what I'll do is I have my hair, like I'll put it up like this in like a little bun. So I'll tuck it away, but
it never fails. These bottom tanks on this bottom row right here is what does it every time. I'm always
your sleeves sometimes, like just a little bit of the sleeve, like you're reaching in and you're like, oh, I'm trying to be careful, and then it just dips. And then it just decides to absorb all the water, even though it like touched it like this much and it's like this wet, sweaty.
Yeah, and I always use my shirt or my pants, anything I have to wipe my hands on. So it's like I need to learn to actually use a towel.
I use your towel.
You think I would use my own, but I don't. But I appreciate it. Does it wash up well?
Yeah, it does. It's actually in the laundry pile, but I like it because my other like fish room towel, I made a mistake of picking something light colored, so then like it stains. Well, this one, it's like it looks perfect all the time.
Yeah. I had white ones and black ones, and I was like, why did I use white? That doesn't seem like a very smart idea. So then I stopped just black. It covers up all algae stains.
Yep. Oh my gosh. It's very helpful all the time.
How long have you been breeding bettas? Have you been doing it forever?
Not very long. My sense of time is really bad, but I think like I would say 4 years ago-ish is when I started. I still consider myself pretty much a beginner because I haven't had that many spawns. People will, I guess, look up to me or use my videos as tutorials because I try my best to research as much as possible and put out as best content as possible. And I try to double check my advice, but there's so much for me to learn. Like I'll sometimes lurk in the betta breeding Facebook groups, and I'll just read and try to absorb it as much as I can, and I'll just sit there and I'm just like, I know so little.
No.
Even when I like get new books or magazines, like it's very easy to think that like you've had a couple successful tanks and you're like, cool, I know a lot of things and I'm an expert fish keeper. But once you continue like ongoingly research, it'll kind of keep you humble because you'll constantly be reminded of how much information is out there and like how little you know and how things are changing all the time. So even with betta breeding, people are coming up and experimenting with new methods all the time, and like weird things happen. Like for example, my bucket spawn, that was just an experiment for me. Usually I would spawn in a tank. Turns out that I had a much bigger survival rate. Even though I did not feed the babies for the first 3 days. You're supposed to feed them something really tiny, like vinegar eels. But this time I was like, well, I'll set up the little bucket earlier and I'll put a bunch of botanicals in there and kind of give it a couple days for like little microorganisms and whatnot to start to colonate on there as they break it down. And as I brought some plants from other tanks that obviously brought, all the little other microorganisms from everywhere else. And even though I didn't feed them, there was clearly enough food in that bucket to be able to feed all the fry and to have such a big amount that I now have the biggest spawn I've ever had. I'm like, who would have known that a bucket worked out really well?
Yeah, those 5-gallon buckets are like a miracle tool for a fish keeper. Or just any type of bucket, really, because they're so helpful in so many different ways. It's not just for water changes, because I've kept numerous guppies and they've bred in buckets before with no problem.
Fish like
without the air filter, like as long as the water's clean, they like it. So, and the same with the tubs. It seems like I make the tubs a little bit less. There's no flow, very little. Even with the air stone, I have it turned down all the way, and they really enjoy it. And I was like, they do so well outside. I just want to keep adding more outside too.
I kind of wonder if we over filter our tanks. I feel like I've kind of step back a little bit, because before I used to like really over filter my tanks because that was in my mind the solution to everything. But now I'm like even playing with the idea after, you know, seeing Lucas's fish house and the fact that he doesn't really run filters. He only has like a couple filters and things, but it's more like for the purpose of like growing cool little mosses and things out of the filters. But he's running everything without filters, which I was like mind blown.
Yeah.
And a part of me is too scared because I've been so conditioned to like, you need a filter.
I know it's a hard habit to break.
But it's also currently because you know fish events are not really happening, so I'm not really moving fish in and out of the fish room, but I'm still breeding. I have more fish. Like I think my capacity is full right now, so I don't want to try to experiment with tanks that are not filtered because I don't want to take a chance because I'm already pushing it because a couple tanks are already overstocked. So you know you gotta have all the help that you can get.
Well, in my mind, growing up, I've always been taught a hang on the back, and you put the little filters cartridges in them, and that's what you did. So then I started playing with like different media and stuff in the tanks, and I was like, wow, or in the hang on the back. So I was like, this is cool. Had no idea. And now the ones that are established that I've had set up for like 3 or 4 years, I'm slowly taking the filters out. There's 4 tanks now down here that don't have any filters at all. And I just add more plants and I try to water change, but I don't gravel vac. I just kind of suction the water out, but try not to get it spick and span. And those tanks are the most clear tanks I have. And they don't have any filter. And it was a hard thing to break, to be like, I don't need to go buy a new one. Now, if I set up a new tank, I'll put an old filter on it that I've had running so I can keep some bacteria going when I first set it up. But if they've been established and running for a long time and I have the fish are looking good, then I'll just take it out. And they're really like the clearest tanks I have. And I was like, this is so mind-boggling because I was like, you have your hang on the back. That's what you do. And then learning that you don't have to necessarily filter your tank if you kind of know what you're doing a little bit. You don't have to have them. But I wouldn't do it for a new tank. I wouldn't take it off for a new tank. I would still filter it, but I was surprised. I thought they would get, I don't know what, honestly, I thought they would do in my head, but they're good. This one go this way, down here beside right here, that does the filter right there. I've had that turned off for like 2 months. I just haven't taken it out, but it's super clear. And this one up here has a sponge filter and a hang on the back. And it's always a little bit cloudy, but this one with nothing is super clear, have no problems. So I was just something in my head that I was like, I don't have to do that. But it was new for me.
When it comes to making like decisions with like filtering or not filtering, because also like in the back of my mind, I'm scared that if I try to replicate that in some of my tanks, like that maybe I will be able to do it because at least I've been in the hobby for a while, and I could test my water regularly. The bucket. I could test my water regularly and just monitor how things are happening and kind of adjust as needed. But my worry is that even if I make a disclaimer in my video and say like this tank is a certain way because and lift it out, I still worry that like some beginners or people that might just not want to spend the extra money on a filter might be like, meh, I'm not going to get it. But they're brand new to the hobby and don't understand, the aquarium cycle and water chemistry. So I'm a little scared, but at the same time, I feel like I should trust my audience more because a lot of smart people watch me.
Yeah. And if I get it wrong, like I don't mind, like let me know so I can learn.
Because people point out
smart people.
Yeah. Like there's times where like even with my research, like I would find a resource and I'll be like, oh, this seems legit. And I would then, quote it in my video. and then it would turn out to be, incorrect. And I've had people in the comments be like, well, no, this is this and this. And I'd be like, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, I had no clue. I appreciate it. I will, either pin the comment or I'll address it in the next video because I appreciate it because we're all learning from each other. And I think that's the best part is not so much, just being a YouTuber and making videos for other people. It's more so being part of the collective of people that are sharing information about fish keeping, because we as a collective are helping each other and the hobby as a whole by contributing all the different information that everyone seems to acquire from keeping their own little fish room.
It helps me break out of my little box because I like my schedule and my routine, and sometimes I need to open up and learn something. And half the stuff I've tried, I was like, who would have thought? I was like, this is awesome. And I never would have thought of even not having a filter if it wasn't for the community and learning from everybody else. I would have never thought that. I would have still been using my carbon cartridges and had no clue. So it's like every day you learn something new, and it helps me break out of the box.
I think if I didn't see it in person, because I'm always so skeptical, you could probably maybe run one little understocked tank that's a ton of plants and one betta and cool, you're not filtering it because the waste is really low. But Lucas had certain tanks that had a pretty decent amount of fish in them.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, he has he has the reputation and experience for breeding and being successful. And once I was there to really see it, I was like, because if I would have heard of it online, I would have been more skeptical.
Yeah.
But then seeing it, that was kind of an impressive. And looking back at the bucket, I'm glad the bucket is useful for not only water changing bettas, but also for the kitty. That's what I get. It was actually up right here. Ooh, pointing wrong way.
It's hard to point.
I think it mirrors it. So I'm just my left hand, but it's on the right.
We got a $4.99 super chat from Kaylor's Aquatics. Best collab ever. Thank you. I was so excited that you were going to be on the chat today. I was like, I don't even know what to talk about. I just want to talk about anything.
We'll just have, I don't know, fish adventures and hang out and talk about dipping our clothes in the tanks and I don't know, whatever other stuff. I'm wearing a cichlid shirt, so I thought I'm kind of cool today. It's from Wonder of Cichlids, one of the members of the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association that is not local, which means that you can totally join their fish club if you're not local. We sometimes do online stuff too, because of all the COVID stuff. Our club has been actually hosting a lot of online talks that people can actually attend. I feel like I should have probably made a YouTube video about that. I completely forgot. I should have told people that because that, as people miss the community and interacting, our club, because we have a lot of really tech-savvy people, they were able to still bring the community together online when you couldn't meet up online. So always check different fish clubs. They might not be local, but they might have membership that's worldwide. I know IBC is worldwide. I think the Live Bear Society might be kind of not local either. That's one of our sister clubs. Yeah, I like fish clubs. It's really fun.
I had no idea. That was another thing. I have a fish club that's 2 hours away, the Maasai Club, and I had no idea that there was fish clubs out there until I was lurking in, I can't even remember whose live chat, and they started talking about it. I was like, what is this world that I don't know about? So any of them that are open, I need to make a list and just go through and research a couple and join, because even online stuff, you learn so much. It's just, you can't learn enough.
But in person, it's so much more fun. Find a place to attend any meeting, or when there's fish keeping events, which I didn't know were a thing either. I remember for many years, I used to go to the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association swaps because they would advertise on Facebook. So I got their advertisement once, and I would come to the swaps, and I was like, oh, this is really cool because, I can get different fish that do a lot better than pet store fish because these are from people's homes, they're breeders, so there's less stress and less disease. I mean, disease still happens, but it's a lot more limited. And then there's like this great selection of stuff. But I heard about the club, but my problem was I was too nervous because I saw that the club was pretty much all men. That's it. There's like no, at the time, we do have, I think, like a few female members, but very little. So I was like, oh, like I'm a beginner fish keeper. Like these guys they're all like a little older than me. They seem like super experienced. I'm like, I won't fit in. Like, I'm not fancy enough until they invited Joey, King of DIY, to do a talk at our club. Like, oh, I'll go because, I've never met him before. And that was my opportunity to meet him, but also just get to see another fish keeper. And they did say that your first like meeting, you don't have to be a member yet. You can just guest or welcome to attend the meeting. So then I went and I started talking to a lot of the people there, and I realized that they're really, really, like really nice people, like really welcoming. And the biggest thing, which was really meaningful to me, was that even though I was a complete beginner at the time, like they treated me with a lot of respect and would ask me questions and value my opinions. Even, it wasn't like, you're below us kind of thing. It just made me feel really good. It made me feel welcome, and it took like a lot of the intimidation away. And I just like, these are really wonderful people. And now we all like became fishy friends.
Yeah. That's how it was at this club too. I was trying to say hi, and they were of course talking about this really in-depth subject. So I was like, okay. But once I started talking and I introduced myself, like every time I go, they always remember me. They always welcome me. They always make sure I'm having fun. And I was like, there was no need to be as nervous and scared to say hi as I was, because they're always welcoming. And there's so many types of fish there that when I do go to a swap, there's always something new. I had no idea this even existed. And there's always someone there that knows everything about it that you can talk to, and it's a whole new world that I was like, this is amazing.
You click with people.
Yeah. And I went to one of their Christmas parties. I think it was 2 years ago, and it was just so fun. They were giving out fish breeding awards. I was like, why did I not know about this?
It's so fun. Our club also does like a Christmas party, and we were doing like white elephant gift exchange, which had to be like under like I think it was like $10 or $15, but it all had to be fish themed.
Yeah,
and it's really funny because when you do the white elephant, you can steal stuff, and it was just funny seeing people like steal like filters from each other, like really like, oh, this is great, or like this fish food, like I'm gonna get this fish food, like I really want it. And it was just funny because as a hobbyist, like you think maybe sometimes you might feel like you might be a little like odd compared to like most people that you interact with on a daily basis, but you're not. There's always a niche for everything, and there's always going to be like-minded individuals who are just like as geeky as you, and just as excited about the things you're excited about. And when you meet these people, you're just like, this is great. We both care about the same thing. And
it's so nice to not have to explain like, why do you like fish? Why not? And when you go to like different events that are fish related, you could skip all of that. You could just dive down into the cool like fish talk, and you don't have to be like, well, I like them because of this, and you could just jump right into it. It's good conversation. We did get a $4.99 super chat from Well Done Tanks. Wanted to say I enjoy both of your channels, and I appreciate the info on breeding fish. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I did want to pick your brain a little bit over your baby. You feed baby brine shrimp, don't you?
Yep.
How do you do that?
Oh, you've never had baby brine shrimp?
Well, I'm attempting it. I have a contraption that I made. I ordered the eggs. I have all the stuff to do it. But the stuff bug, like I just can't. How do you separate the hatch from the eggs that don't hatch?
So the eggshells, they're lighter, so they will float up to the top. And
Okay.
you have a flashlight at the bottom. The brine shrimp naturally go towards the light.
Okay.
So after you stop the bubbling and you set it, you just put a flashlight next to it and then walk away for like 30 minutes. And then eventually all of the little guys will settle where the flashlight is, and you'll either be able to like, use a turkey baster to suck them out, or if it's attached at the bottom.
Yeah, mine's attached. I have like a valve thing that I
open that and then sift it. You can get some sort of mesh. I got a little thing on Amazon which has a very, very fine mesh that'll pour it in, because normal fish nets, even though some of them will say brine shrimp, they're not fine enough. Like it has to be like super fine.
The one that I have one that's really thin, and it's almost like a cheesecloth material. You can't water drops through it, but it's too thin. So then I found it's more of a cup size, but it's a coffee filter that's the same really super fine material. So I'm going to try that next. It's just that other one you couldn't. It didn't have enough depth to the cup. It's like, this is not working.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
But yeah, so I'm going to attempt that again.
They're not really that hard. You will have different hatch rates based on your temperature. So like if you keep them warmer, like if you use like a little reptile heat mat or give them extra heat, they will hatch faster. If it's cooler, they will hatch slower. And the brine shrimp hatchery doesn't really matter. I've used a bunch of different types, and they all seem to work pretty well. And also the ratio of salt when adding baking soda, you don't have to worry about it too much. I'm at this point, like I've been watching. Sometimes Daniel will do it for me. He'll set up my brine shrimp hatchery if I'm busy doing something else, and I'll see him just wing it. He'll just kind of take it like a teaspoon, just look at it, think about it for a second, just pop it in. Like it's never the consistent amount, as long as they like roughly have like a good amount of salt to the water. And it also helps to try out 2 different hatcheries sometimes, because once in a while you will have it crash. Sometimes maybe you just put in too much eggs, and then the load is too big, and the ammonia probably spiked and it killed them all. So it can happen. But don't worry about it too much. It's going to be a lot of like trial and error. And you'll figure out what works for your fish room. Because I've tried to like imitate what other fish keepers do, like very specifically, and it just wasn't really working. I was getting like lower hatch rates. Or I found myself like, at first I thought I needed to put light on them for them to hatch. But now I realize I actually don't. I don't put light on them and they hatch anyways. In my case. So you don't have to like worry too much. I think you'll do fine. And then I noticed fish do so much better when you feed them live baby brine. Even like older fish that are obviously small enough to be able to still eat it and catch it, because it's so nutrient rich. And it's such a good, like, it's, live food is one of the best foods you can feed your fish if possible.
Yeah, I'm going to keep attempting it. I've tried it a couple times, and I've got a few to hatch. Like, it's just the separating part that I'm like, I don't feel like I'm doing this right. But I think a lot of it was I needed a different container. And I was at Dollar General of all places, and I was just looking, and I was like, that is perfect. I was like, score.
For me, it was the same, but with vinegar eels. It was always so hard for me to separate them. And it was just frustrating. And I used to use coffee filters. And then sometimes, like, I would accidentally, like, put too much vinegar eels in the tank. So I'm just like, you can just see, like, a ton. And I'm just like, they're not, for the amount of fry that's in here, they're not going to eat it at all. So I just kind of gave up. And recently, like, one of my cultures crashed. Actually, all of my life cultures, I no longer have microworms anymore. I probably will have to get a new culture going. And I don't have my banana worms anymore. Which is kind of sad, because I prefer to feed live food. So all I have now is my baby brine shrimp. But I'm experimenting with different companies that sell eggs. And I'm trying to see, because people will say specific hatch rates, but I want to see, like, is that the case? But at the same time, I know that a lot depends on, how I set up my own brine shrimp hatchery. So I can't really make a video and be like, well, this brine shrimp has like a 90% hatch rate. So if you get these eggs from this company, you'll have a 90% hatch rate. I believe that there's a lot of little other factors that are involved. And some people, there's weird stuff that happens. There was one YouTuber, I forgot his name, it was a smaller channel, but that had multiple brine shrimp hatcheries going and forgot about one of them and just let it keep going for a few weeks. And turns out that it cycled and the shrimp grew to adulthood and were thriving. There was still enough light from the window that there was algae growing in there. So there was so weird things happen.
Yeah, I haven't thought about growing them up yet, but I'm still getting past the hatchery.
Yeah, I haven't tried. I have tried growing them up once, and it was a failure. It was like my little experiment. I do that once in a while. Like I'll do stuff and not really film it, and like just me experimenting in the fishery. Like, will this work?
Well, I have high hopes. I even got like little bitty ice trays to like put the leftovers in to hopefully feed to a bigger fish, but we'll see. I get these bright ideas.
Hey, keeping them in the fridge does work because they'll hibernate. They'll kind of like I don't want to say hibernate, but they kind of act like they hibernate. They'll all drop to the bottom of the whatever container you have, and then they'll just hang out there for like overnight, so you can have any leftover ones for the next day. And because it takes them a while to perk up again, like I don't know, a couple seconds for them to warm up to the warmer temperature of the tank, they'll drop to the bottom. So if you're feeding fry in a bare bottom tank and it's fry that happened to just hang out at the bottom, it's actually a better way to feed them. Because the other problem with brine shrimp is because they're attracted to light. If you have a light at the top of your tank, they're all going to go up to follow light. But when your fry hanging out at the bottom, like my ocellatus gold babies tend to, when they're really, really young, they'll hug the bottom first before they're swimming around. So I'll have to use like a little pipette to like forcibly squirt them down. Like, no, go down there so little guys can eat you. Or I'll have to like have a batch that was from the fridge that I can like pour in. And then, like, okay, these guys are like out of it enough. And I'll just start to like wiggle their little appendages a little bit, which is enough for the fry to be like, oh, it moves. That means it's food.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope, like, I have no doubt I'll get it. I just gotta do it.
You'll figure it out.
I have like a whole wine cooler that I keep food, and I wanted to keep some of that stuff in there so I can just grab it and feed it, and then freeze some too if I need it. So hopefully, because I have the pike live bears, I have 3 of them, and they're okay eaters, but they can be picky on some days and not picky on other days. So I figured if I could mix a little bit of live food and frozen food and pellet food and any type of food they could possibly want food, they'll be happy. And hopefully they'll breed. And so we'll see. But it's fun trying new stuff.
It is. I've even tried feeding them before. I've tried because you have to wait till the baby brine shrimp like feed off their little egg yolk sac. So I think I'm guessing it's like what 3rd day that they're alive if you give them alive past that time. So I've attempted to give them like spirulina powder and see like can I feed them or can I gut load them and then feed baby fish not only like a little critter that's nutrient rich but also has spirulina in it. I don't think it worked though. They weren't really eating it, but it was one of my like failed experiments.
I know with my arowana, if I could figure out how to grow them up to adulthood and freeze them in cubes, because his diet, he's never full, and feeding him anything I could possibly feed him, I'll do it. But if I could have some stock without having to go to the store all the time, that would be great. So
like food grade shrimp.
Yeah.
For arowana.
He's getting to the point where he's getting so big that he can handle that with no problem.
Because you'd have to hatch a lot of brine shrimp to like fill up like one whole cube.
Oh yeah, it's not just for him. I was gonna feed them mainly to the small ones down here, but if I had a couple, every time you go past this tank, give them a cube or something new, just because he's in the dining room, and when you're sitting there eating, he'll come up to the tank and just watch you. He's like, I'm here, feed me.
This is why I want a big fish one day. Like other than the 55-gallon for the Placidochromis, I can't really have a bigger tank in here.
Yeah, I couldn't fit it down here at all. It's in the dining room, and the only reason why I got it is because that used to be the garage, so there's a concrete floor underneath it. He's in a 180-gallon tank upstairs, so it's the only place I would trust it to go.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but I re-siliconed that tank, so I was a bit wary about it. But I feel like we did a good job.
It's holding up.
Yeah. It took us, we had to do it once and then we messed it up and we had to tear it all out and do it again. And the second time we did it right.
Oh, well, that works out.
Yeah.
I really want to get a big fish one day because they're so fun. Well, little fish are fun too, but big fish, they have a different type of personality. I'm assuming because their brains are larger. Mm-hmm. So therefore, there's more variety in their behaviors and they're more like aware. Maybe their intelligence might be a little higher. Although some of my smaller fish, like, have you ever just hung around in the fish room and the fish will look at you, but they're not gonna just look at you. They're actually actively watching you and they're watching what you're doing and they'll swim up to the glass and check you out. My chromas do that all the time, and because they're so weird. Gravity doesn't apply to them. I'm actually gonna make a video about them very soon because I've never done a species spotlight on them, even though I've had a breeding pair for over 2 years now. But they'll do this thing where they'll tilt their bodies and they'll look at you, so they'll swim up to you and they'll just look at you, and then they'll go upside down because they just like to swim upside down because they're weird. So sometimes they'll be just upside down at the top of the tank, just look at, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah, certain ones, even certain guppies in the fish room have more of a little personality over the other ones, and I think that's what makes them stand out and kind of. I have a few favorites over the other ones. The bigger fish, especially that arowana. Lucy, she's a freshwater lionfish, and she doesn't care about anything except food. But the goldfish, the koi, they'll come up and hand feed out of my hand, and the arowana, they have big personalities. They're always cranky at me. The smaller fish love me. They come up and swim. They're like, hi. And then the big ones humble me. They're like, no, you're not. You're just here for my food. But the arowana, it's funny if you have to move quick because he likes fingers. He likes the end of the water change hose. He'll eat it.
He likes snacks. These are snack little worms, little chubby worms.
Yeah, and he hasn't drawn blood, but you can definitely feel it if he gets you. You're like, okay, that got me.
Ironically, the fish that bite me the hardest are the little ocelotus. Those things, I will stick my hand in the tank with skepticism and caution. But I can stick my hand with the Placidochromis, which the adults are this big. And they'll sometimes nip me because they think they're excited and they think it's food, but it's the most weak little sissy nip ever. I'm just really? You're this big and then you just boop me. But then the little tiny fish, the little ocelotus, drawn blood before. They've bitten up Daniel. And when I stick my hand in the tank, I do the whole two-hand method. I'll put it in and I'll be distracting and go fight. And I'll do move stuff around, whatever I need to. Sometimes I've done things I've dropped a rock in there. And I'll see them get really angry and start attacking the rock, and I'm just what are you doing? That's why I love them. The ocelotus are so full of personality.
They are. I haven't had one before, but every time I've seen one, the few times I've seen, it's not all the time, but they're so cute and they're personable for sure. Just the ones I've seen, at least.
Yeah, they're adorable. Pink and gold. Fish that want to murder you. They're the girly side of me is they're adorable.
But they are cute. Well, I guess in the last minute or so, do you have anything coming out soon, or is there anything you want to promote?
My dinner alarm just went off. Make dinner. So I don't
forget. Yeah, I have tacos upstairs waiting to be cooked.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really good. Actually,
it's one of the go-to things that the kid will eat. The kiddo he's picky eater. So there's 3 foods that's okay, I know you're going to eat this.
You gotta be sneaky and sneak things in the tacos, maybe. It's a taco. I've seen on Facebook someone posted that their kid really likes Taco Bell. So they would make dinner and just put it in the Taco Bell bag and then bring it. Like, oh, we got Taco Bell, and it's like
sometimes you'll try anything. You'll try anything besides tacos and pizza.
Oh, the staple food of America.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I don't really have any like super fancy plans. I'm just kind of making videos as they pop up. For the next 2 months, I am gonna actually make an extra effort to try to put out more videos because I know that I've been putting them out a little more spaced out. Mm-hmm. I can't promise, but I am actually gonna try to do 2 videos a week for a short while and see how long that goes. So I'll be updating everybody on the baby bettas as they're growing. Gonna do a species spotlight for the Julia Chromis because they're super fun and super weird, and I don't know why I haven't shown them to anybody yet. And they're a cute little couple that has a lot of personality because they do pair spawn. And other than that, I'm gonna try my best to just kind of keep making videos for everybody and just enjoying all the adventures. I have kind of fallen behind on everything FishTube. Mm-hmm. So I feel like at one point I am gonna probably maybe have to go on a binge or something because I don't even know who's doing what or
it's hard. I try so hard to keep up with everybody and watch everybody's stuff and support where I can, but the kiddos and work and keeping everything going on my end for myself, it's like, gosh, where does the day go?
Yeah, you have it extra hard because at least like I don't have any kids, so like, I have the one slight advantage. And I still feel like I'm bad at time management, and I still
horrible
time. But I have schedules now, and I'm finally getting to like a groove in my job where I'm making time for work, and then I'm making time for YouTube, and I'm making time for my own sanity. But because I was going through burnout for a while with YouTube, because I did for a while really grind out a lot of YouTube videos for multiple channels. I never really like addressed the burnout. I made a video about it. I tried to take like a break, but even during that break, I would think about YouTube all the time. So it was never really a break. So the fact that I've been focusing on work now and just kind of like making videos every now and then just to, continue growing my channel, but also giving everybody something to look at. Because I know everyone really cares about the fish and they want to see them and want to get updates. But because I was able to kind of turn off my brain and even take a step back from the FishTube community for a while, it's been really good, like for my own mental health, because it's been, like I'm getting more excited about making videos now. Before it used to be I would make videos because I felt like I needed to make videos because money was an issue, but also I felt like I would let my audience down if I didn't. And now I finally I'm stepping back and telling myself that yes, I will continue to make videos for my audience. Like I'm not letting them down. I'm just spacing it out a little bit and like giving myself the break from doing the same kind of content for so many years. And it's been helpful.
It takes some of the pressure off and makes it fun again. Because I kind of was doing the same thing. I was like, I need to do something each week, and I was getting stressed out about it, and then it wasn't fun to do it. So I was like, I'm still going to put it out. I'm still always going to do it and share what's going on. But if I don't have a set schedule, sometimes it makes it, when it's more spontaneous, like, oh my gosh, this just happened. It makes it more fun. And then I feel like it's more fun to watch too.
That's true, because I mean, in the end, we are creators, and to be creative and make creative content, like it's sometimes you're not able to always like put out new things and come up with new things and new concepts. And there's also a part of me that started to go down this path where I was starting to make decisions in my fish room that were better for the channel, of like what would do better versus what I would enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And when I realized I was doing that, then I felt like I wasn't being as genuine to everybody, because the whole point of me trying to share this channel, my channel and my videos, was to get people excited about the hobby as much as I was, because I discovered it and I was really excited about everything. And I'm really still excited about everything. But for a while, I mean, it was a struggle, because I like making betta content, for example, but bettas are not my favorite fish. I enjoy the ocellatus and the Julia Chromis more. So while I will continue making betta videos, I have to keep myself in check and not become like a betta only channel that does only betta things and only keeps bettas, because eventually I will burn myself out and not enjoy the fish as much. And I think it matters when you enjoy the fish, because I think you put, when you enjoy them and when you get attached to them, you'll put in that extra bit of care. Like you'll step it up. It won't be like I'm doing the basic minimum requirements to keep this animal alive, so this animal's healthy and doing well. It's more like I want to go out of my way to try a little harder because I really, really care and enjoy these critters.
Mm-hmm.
It became a burnout.
On the final note, how's Banana? I have to ask about Banana.
She's right here. She can join us. She was under my desk this whole time. I didn't. Oh, you fell. So
say hi.
So much better. She's still a little nervous when it comes to meeting bigger dogs now, because she's still, since she got attacked.
Yeah.
But she's doing so much better. We've been really controlling her interactions. So it had to say no to a lot of dog owners with larger dogs that were asking to, have their dog meet Banana. And if I feel bad saying that to people, but I have to advocate for her and make sure that her experiences are positive, because I don't want her to develop like reactivity towards dogs. Like I want her to know that I will keep her safe. Like it's my job to keep her safe so she can fully trust me. But downstairs in the lowest unit, there's a girl that ended up getting a little border collie puppy. Her name is Rosie. She's a female. And she totally loves Banana. Banana's been ignoring her so much. The cute little puppy will follow her around and give her all the loves. And Banana is like, no, I'm going to sniff this tree. This tree is way more interesting than this cute little puppy. Until finally yesterday, she had like a little mini play session. She was like, okay, I've known you enough.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad everything's worked out.
Yeah, I'm really happy, but I am still a little nervous about like when I'm around bigger dogs.
Yeah,
because there's this like fear. So I've been working on it, because I feel like that's even though I had one bad experience, that shouldn't.
That was a traumatic experience, I'm sure, for everybody involved. Whew.
Well, just trying to cuddle. Now I'm just gonna talk into the Banana.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Rich T. We got a $1.49 super sticker. Well, thank you.
Aw.
I just want to say again, thank you for joining me for the chat. I appreciate it, and I am so much happy to get to talk to you.
Oh, and I'm getting other kisses. Kisses. Oh, okay, there. Then
for those of you in the chat, just to let you know, I'm going to have like a random 30-minute live stream on Sunday at 4 Eastern time, 3 Central time, our time. Creator Fundamentals, he's a YouTube how to help channel, and he's going to talk to me for like 30 minutes Sunday afternoon. So if you want to join me for that, if any of you guys have channels and want to give me some questions, feel free. But
helpful.
I'm excited too. But really, thank you. I'm super glad.
I really appreciate that you took time. It was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you guys, and I will see you Sunday and for another stream next Friday too. So thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.